Okay, it says we're being live streamed right now. If you're watching the recording, hang on for a minute. We got to get the link and put it in the Telegram channel, and that always takes a second. All right, looks like I got the link. And I'm going to share that in the Telegram channel.
Hello, world.
Okay, looks like we're good to go. Welcome, everybody, to the Permissionless Software Foundation Technical Steering Committee. Today is August 31st. I am Chris Troutner. I helped found the PSF, and I maintain fullstack.cash, which is infrastructure as a service for people on the Bitcoin Cash, eCash, and Avalanche blockchains. Let's go ahead and do a round of introductions. Aaron, why don't you start us off?
My name is Aaron Shoemaker. I do 360 WebXR metaverse stuff with the blockchain, and I like to incorporate PSF technology.
Nice. Go ahead, Stoyan.
My name is Stoyan Zhekov, and I'm helping with some of the JavaScript libraries for the foundation.
Yeah, lots of great technical feedback. We're missing Sam and a few of the other Aarons today, but they're with us in spirit, and some of them are lurking in the shadows watching us as we speak.
I saw Aaron's in Boston dropping his kid off at college.
It's like Aaron Cloud. They just join and disappear on the fly.
We're a magnet for Aaron's. Yeah, it's hard to park the car and have it. Yeah, that's the first thing you learn when you go to Boston. Spent a little time out there. It's picked up a little bit of the culture. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we'll go through the agenda if I can find it. I think I actually lost the window. Let's see.
You can tell us which is better, Seattle Best or Starbucks, until you're searching.
Yeah, too many good coffee companies to name, actually. You know, the thing is, on the West Coast, Dunkin' Donuts is like a really seedy place that nobody would ever go. But on the East Coast, it's like the Starbucks. It's the Starbucks of the East Coast.
Oh, nice to know.
Yeah, it's a culture shock when you go over there. Okay, here's our agenda for the day. Nope, this is our agenda from last week. Nope, this is our agenda for today. Okay, so a couple things I wanted to point out right off the get-go. So as always, our agendas for people who are watching the recording and want to find these later, they're on GitHub under the Permissionless Software Foundation group, under the TSC GitHub repository called for Technical Steering Committee, and we file them as issues. And so this is the one for today, number 38. And normally there's this preamble here in the scope, which is like the scope, the reason we have these meetings, the scope of these meetings, that lists like a bunch of the software, but that list is getting so long. And I realized that I actually have pretty good documentation sites now for most of the software. So these links will take you to these different software documentation. So first is the cache stack, which is the overall infrastructure that lets you build phone apps and web apps that talk to the blockchain. The second is the pay-to-write database, which is documented here at p2wdb.com. And lastly is the DEXs. So we have a DEX on Bitcoin Cash and Avalanche, and we're rapidly approaching having a launch of a DEX on eCash. And then eventually we'll have bridges to bridge these three chains as well. So for anybody who wants to, the software is getting like too numerous to list, but these are the three major projects that we're focused on. And as always, Aaron, Stoyan, interrupt me at any time. And I'm just going to go through the agenda. The big news this week is the Avalanche DEX is done, and a report has been created and sent to Ava Labs. The report is public if anybody wants to read it. It's in a repository called Ava Labs 22 report. And there's a link here to the demo, which is there's a view only demo, so you can see tokens, but you can't buy tokens because this is software that you're supposed to run on your computer. It's not a .com site where you go to trade, because that would cause all sorts of legal issues. But if you run the software on your own home and it's peer-to-peer between you and the seller, that's a completely different legal situation.
How's the cost for minting on their X chain?
It's 0.001 AVEX.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so that's
a
is
lot
constantly
cheaper
changing.
That's a lot cheaper than their.
So it's 2 cents.
2
But
cents.
at one point that was like 14 cents.
Yeah.
And you're going to pay that every time you send a token.
Oh,
and so I use one cent as like my threshold for microtransactions.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have microtransactions, your token economy kind of doesn't work.
Yeah.
And but they also have miner validated tokens. So I would be much more comfortable holding a stable coin on Avalanche than I would on Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah.
So there's that to consider. And 14 cents or 2 cents today is really not that bad of a trend. So, if you're doing video games or something, I would use an SLP token. But if you're going to have a stable coin and you really want to be sure that your tokens don't accidentally get burned, I would pay the 2 cent transaction cost to work in a stable coin on there.
And you have the prototypes for a bridge to the X chain from BCH, right?
Yeah, they're code complete. They work. We just need to set them up. They require maintenance. Okay. So that's pretty cool. It's a little clunky, this Avalanche DEX, because the DEX depends on the pay-to-write database, and there is no pay-to-write database yet on the Avalanche chain. So that means you have to have Bitcoin Cash and PSF tokens, and that's what makes it super clunky right now. So in part of this report, there's a section where I say, this was a small grant. So if they want to give us like a second grant to continue the work, there's about 4 very clear items that could be improved. And one of them is porting the pay-to-write database over to the Avalanche X chain so that everything's natively happening on the X chain, and they don't need to use Bitcoin Cash, because that's a big ask for anybody on one blockchain, is to use coins on another blockchain.
Yeah.
But we're actually solving that problem on the Bitcoin Cash side and the eCash side. So first of all, let me talk about this new UI. So we kind of have gone over this wallet template in previous meetings, and Stoyan and I are sort of going back and forth right now. He's like, "Oh, look, what if you did this?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll incorporate that." And so we're kind of hashing out the different ways to build this web wallet. But it's been adapted for the DEX. So if you go to dex.fullstack.cash, you'll get a splash page, which you should definitely read. And then there's a button you can click, which will take you to the demo here, which is dex-demo.fullstack.cash. It's the same web wallet. It just has this extra offers view where you can see tokens that are up for sale on the marketplace. The buy button's disabled because this is a view only, but stay tuned, because that's going to change here in a little while. And then the tokens, which I don't have any in this wallet, have a sell button, and it lets you sell. Wish I could have demoed that, but I'm going to come back around to that, because there's some good stuff there. Actually, that's the next item. Good. So I just published, like literally yesterday, I just published this BCH DEX lib. So this is an NPM library. So this is best illustrated. So I'm looking at the DEX report. Yeah, the DEX report. And in this report, there's this picture that I want to go over, and it walks through a token trade between Alice and Bob, and it breaks down the 3 phases of the trade: the signal, the watch, and the pay. And what I realized, so just to cover this real quickly, Alice puts up a UTXO for sale, which represents tokens. That's the signal. Bob browses the market using the UI I just showed. That's the watch part. He finds a token that he wants to buy, and he broadcasts a counter offer. And actually, I misspoke. That's not the watch part. The watch part is Alice's software. It watches for that counter offer, and then when it detects it, it checks it, completes the partially signed transaction into a complete transaction, broadcasts it, and the money goes to Alice, and the tokens go to Bob. So that part where Bob browses the marketplace and clicks the buy button and broadcasts a counter offer, I realized a couple weeks ago, like that part can actually be pulled out, and that could be an Android app just in and of itself that doesn't require the backend software that Alice would need to run in order to sell and then accept counter offers. She needs to run this BCHDEX backend software. But Bob just browsing tokens and buying tokens, that can all happen just in the browser, with no backend, as long as he can post to the pay to write database. So that's sort of my focus in the short term here. And this library that I just created is a step down that road. So the next step is to actually adapt the user interface I just showed into a standalone web app and Android app, where you can just browse all the tokens on the market and hit buy, and you don't need any PSF tokens. You just need BCH, and everything just magically happens. And so we're getting really close to having that. And I'm really, really excited about that. It's going to be that's like an ideal user experience.
That's awesome.
Chris, it's a NPM library. So when you're using it from some application, you will just include it in your package.json. No need to do the use script stuff to embed it inside your web like a DOM, right?
Yeah. So what I do with libraries like this, and I haven't done it yet, but is I compile them with Browserify, and so you include it with like a script tag. So you've seen how I've done it with minimal SLP wallet and the sweep wallet. So it's the same thing.
It will be same usage. Okay.
Yeah, same usage, exactly. So that's if you want it in the browser. And then if you're doing a Node.js app, you just include it in your package.json like everything else. Yeah.
Will be there some functions added to the PCF command line wallet to do this kind of stuff?
Well, there could be, but the browsing of the market sort of lends itself to more of a visual user interface. Like I'm not sure how to do that well on a command line. Mm-hmm. But if you knew the order that you wanted to take, you could do everything else through the command line fairly easily. Yeah. Another thing that I want to add, because hopefully this thing's going to explode, and like this current view is not going to be very good for, after 10 tokens or something, like this user interface starts to go to shit. And there's going to be scams. So one of the things I want to add sooner rather than later is like a verified thing where it's like PSF token and USDT are the two top ones I can think of, where it'll filter everything else that's not on a verified list. And maybe we charge companies who want to get on the verified list just to sort of, because there's going to be people who make, a USDT token that only differs by the token ID, some fake token that people are trying to get people to buy. And so we need to, we haven't been to that point yet, but we're starting to approach the point where we need to think about scams and how to protect users from scams. So if you guys, we'll collectively talk that out when the time's right.
Yeah, scams are tough. They definitely are tough, especially when you're talking stable coins and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean the big advantage we have is that there's the token ID. It's not a human friendly thing, but that does uniquely identify a token, and it's not possible to forge the token ID. So we can't always rely on that, but making that sort of visually appealing and accessible. That's why I think like just a checkbox for like verified tokens is probably the easiest, most naive way to do it. But then
Tom,
it's like who verifies the token, you know?
Chris, you can check maybe the all of these Uniswap kind of dexes. They're using something named token list, and
Mhm.
it's a standard JSON format with a schema. So when you create the new token list, you can check if it's right. So you can have this JSON file somewhere,
Mhm.
like on well location, maybe IPFS, and this kind of dexes can get this thing, get the token IDs, and see if it's the right one.
Yeah,
So,
mechanically, I totally agree. I think that's the way to go. It's very similar to the locat ID. It's just that, you know, that lookup table lives somewhere, probably in a code repository that some one person owns. And the question is, how do you get your token on that list? Does it and like does it cost money? Because it's going to cost somebody time to curate that list. And so it's sort of I've seen how this I've seen different solutions. We just gotta you know, there's no rush on this, but at some point we need to figure out how to do it for ourselves and what's fair and what's right. And you know, if there's a decentralized way to do it, that's great, but the centralizing way of doing it is the most efficient and easiest way to do it.
At first, I think using mutable NFT from the PSF, and then have a JSON document that has token IDs, and then when you find, you could either use it as a blacklist or a whitelist. If it's a blacklist and you see somebody's acting malicious, you could use that and write it as into the mutable portion, and then the application is going to look at a token and say, is this token on a blacklist? Yeah.
Actually, that's a great idea, because I was thinking more along a whitelist, but why not have both? Why not have both a whitelist and a blacklist?
Yeah.
And
then then the application would simply say, all right, this person wants to sell the token. I'm looking at the token ID. First, I'm going to check the JSON document from the mutable PSF, like master token or whatever it's called. Who cares? And oh no, this token has been known to be involved in scams. Not going to allow this on. Right?
Yeah. So, you know, I'm glad you said this, because this is getting my gears turning now, because there's one. I've been working on this idea for the simple store protocol, and one of the ideas on the one of the ideas there for the simple store protocol is this idea of claims, which are just transactions on the blockchain, but they point at something. They're a claim about like another store or another claim, and so we could have a system where if like say 10 claims are made that say this token is a scam, then it automatically gets added to the blacklist. You know, and unless it's like manually, you know, then it could be manually taken off the blacklist. And then if it's on the whitelist, then, you know, it doesn't matter if that happens, because it's on the whitelist. And so it's like you could have this sort of graded thing where like by default the token's not on either list, but it can end up on the blacklist through community effort. And if someone's just trolling it, you know, there's a way to get around that. The problem, the easy way of creating these lists and centralizing them is that like someone has to maintain them, and that's a burden.
Another thing you can do as well is you don't even have to have it's centralized. So let's say the tokens have to be minted from a certain wallet, right? Yeah, you can send the minting baton, but we can track where the minting baton's at, that sort of thing. If I got scammed by something that I don't know you're anonymous on the internet, but your token scammed me, I could create a marker token that I could send to you. That is my marker token saying that did that. Or it'd be better to do it the positive side, because it takes a lot more for people to leave a good comment than a bad comment. So if I feel like I had good business with you and I know where that token originates, I might send a positive token to that wallet, so that when people look at the originating wallet, they go, oh yeah, he's got like 10 positive tokens. People really like working with this person, you know, and so even just doing the positive thing creates a barrier, so you don't have people like, I hate you, here's negative tokens, you know, like,
Yeah.
because it just takes.
Well,
a
yeah,
little
I could see
step to do
how
a
both of
positive
them
thing.
could get gamed. Let's just keep thinking about it and talking about it. That's the most important thing, is we got to like think adversarially about how whatever we come up with, how could it get gamed. Jerry asks a really good question about how do coins get added to the BIP44 coin type list. And this is a list, it's on GitHub, and it lists the derivation path for all that, so it's like mnemonic is a 12-word seed. But that can represent an Ethereum address, can represent Bitcoin address, Bitcoin Cash, whatever. Like basically there's a list for every derivation and each derivation belongs to a different blockchain. And so you can use the same 12 words on all these different blockchains. And that list is maintained by Bitcoin Core. And then Bitcoin Cash has its own fork of the BIPs that they maintained one day. They used to maintain. I don't think anybody maintains them now. And so trying to get a new coin on that list, I mean, the original way is to go to Bitcoin Core and ask them to add it, because they're the ones that own the GitHub repository that controls that list. And then there's been forks of that list. So it's a messy process and it's centralized.
Yeah, it's take about a month. I have one token added, but it was big pain. You need to fork the repository, make pull request to them, and eventually someday they will approve it and add it to the repository.
Yeah, I saw your pull request for the Locat ID, because I just submitted a pull request for a Locat ID, and that's like it's a repository that's not maintained, so those pull requests are just going to sit there forever.
Yeah. Well, okay. We will do this decentralized somehow. Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to the agenda. Okay, so that's the DEX stuff. Pretty exciting. Look for that Android app that lets you just browse and buy tokens. I'm pretty excited to put that together. All the pieces are there. I'm ready to do that final thing. So tech updates. Trickle. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Trickle IPFS is a Docker container that I created because I'm running like at least 6 different IPFS nodes on my home network, and when one of them spikes in traffic, they all spike in traffic, and so I really this is if you don't have to dig too deep to find all of the complaints about how hard it is to bandwidth limit IPFS. They don't make any effort. Like it's explicit. They've been very explicit that we are not going to make any effort to bandwidth limit our software, and that's the job of the operating system. So, what Trickle IPFS? Really? Yeah, that's their stance. That's their official stance, as official as they get. And so, what Trickle is it's a command line app for Linux that it's got a pretty simple syntax, and you can say, 50 kilobit, like limit this app to 50 kilobit per second, maximum bandwidth or whatever you want to set it at. So this Docker container I created wraps the IPFS node, the Go IPFS node in with Trickle. And so you can set the bandwidth limits with just a couple environment variables in the Docker Compose file. And so I've already started updating a lot of the software to do this, like particularly if anybody wants to run a wallet service at home, like Sam and Aaron Sunman. I've already updated the repo, so if you guys do a git pull, and I think it sets the limit to like a megabyte per second, which is pretty high. And so like on my home, I knock a 0 off of that. I usually go to like 100 kilobits or 50 kilobits or kilobytes per second. So yeah, it's a nice thing. It's kind of an under the hood thing that most people aren't going to need to worry about. But if you're running an IPFS node or multiple IPFS nodes at your home on a limited internet connection, this is definitely something that's going to be of interest to you.
Good to know.
Okay. Yeah. So pay to write database got a pretty big update. That it's an optional service, so it's not turned on by default. You have to manually turn this on, and then there's a couple other steps in this PR. Let me pull that up. But what it does is it allows people to pay for a right to the pay to write database in Bitcoin Cash. They don't need to have the PSF tokens, because what's happening under the hood is your instance of the pay to write database is essentially selling them the PSF tokens they need on the fly to do that right. So there's you set this environment variable, and you have to create a wallet file, and then you have to load that wallet file with a few cents of Bitcoin Cash and some PSF tokens. But then when they use the let's see. When they there's a new endpoint that they can call to allow them to pay in Bitcoin Cash, and by default it charges them an extra 10%. So whatever the market price of the PSF tokens is at that point, it adds 10%. And so the idea is that maybe in the future, different pay to write database instances can compete on this percentage. So that's why it's set high, is to leave room for competition. And then there's also this the pay to write database NPM library here has been updated to take advantage of this. If you scroll down to the bottom, so this library is on npmjs.com, and it's called P2WDB. And if you scroll down on the bottom, there's a code example of how, that's pinning. If you scroll down in the middle, there's a write example. And so this hasn't changed, because all you're doing is you're giving it a private key that has some Bitcoin Cash, and everything just sort of automatically happens. But that's a good segue into the next item, which is the pinning service. So that same library, if you scroll down the bottom, it now has a pin class library, and there's code example on how to pin a piece of IPFS content using this library. And this library has also been added to the PSF BCH wallet command line app. So that has let me see if I can bring that up. Thought I just updated that. Yeah. So there's a new pin command in the PSF BCH wallet that uses this library and uses that feature. And so you just give it the name of a wallet that needs to have some BCH, some Bitcoin Cash. And if it has PSF tokens, it'll use those to pay for it first. And if it doesn't, it'll automatically use the Bitcoin Cash and pay the extra 10%. And then you just give it the one CID argument, and then the pay to write databases that are running the pinning service, which is an optional add-on for the pay to write database, will pin it. So I've got one running on a cloud in Virginia, and I've got another, and then Launchpad IP is running a pinning service in California in the cloud. So we've got two sort of high-end pinning services running. Like, the goal is to have 5. And so I'll start working eventually on creating a bounty to pay people to spin up these pinning services. So it's just an instance of the pay to write database, and then there's one extra Docker container that runs on top of that stack, which listens for these pin commands and then will pin that CID when it hears it. And so right now, it's 1 penny per megabyte. It's the same cost to write to the pay to write database, and so it only supports files 1 megabyte or lower. Does that make sense to you guys? I kind of went through a whole bunch of details really quickly.
Yeah, it's pinning 1 megabyte or lower. It's working in the wallet now, so we can write to it. And I get it because we've talked about it before. You know, you pay to pin, and it sends a message out to the pinning cloud, and then the pinning cloud sends the message out to the rest of the cluster to pin this content. Are you pinning it recursively across all of them, or is it something where you can choose the amount of pinning?
Yeah, each node operates independently, so each node's pinning the. Oh, and it does. Yeah, it does do recursive. Yeah.
Okay.
Recursive pinning.
Because like the one thing that we're gonna have to watch out for is if the nodes get larger. I don't know if that's the plan or not. If there's more nodes, you can actually set how many times you want them to pin. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, like in the pinning cluster. Yeah, that's interesting. We'll have to play. Like right now, this is just a prototype, and we'll have to play with this. Like that's where the 1 megabyte limit comes in. That was the easiest thing to code. And so that's one thing we need to play with. And then like redundancy is another thing to play with. Geographic distribution is another thing to play with. So it'll be evolving.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that could be hard too, because, they're using a VPN. Who knows,
Right.
who knows where they're at. But I also think that if somebody's wanting to participate in the node network and, get the full benefit out of it, saying my node is in Cincinnati, Ohio, might make sense for them, because they also want it to, like, I think there's an incentivization for people to use the network, not for bounties, but just for storage. Like I'm running a node, so I get X amount of storage per year, for running one node. Well,
right.
I'd like to know that if I put my website up on this cluster, that it's going to come up good in Seattle. So like maybe I would like to know that it's in Seattle. So I'm going to let people know that I'm in Cincinnati, so that this works a lot better.
Yeah. So I'm really going to be interested to see how the incentives or how the network unfolds, because there's multiple incentives. Like for instance, Launchpad IP, they are a member of the PSF, but they're not running a node to collect a bounty. They're running a node because they need a pinning service physically close to their servers, because their servers use the content that's pinned by the pinning service, and they do want it to be decentralized, and they don't want it. They do want it to be permissionless. They don't want to depend on a service like Pinata. They don't want to depend on a service like Web3.storage because it's free. Like we're using it, but we don't want to depend on it because it's free. Like we want to use it because it's free, but we don't want to depend on it because
it's called free for now.
Yeah, free for now. Yeah, exactly. And so they're running their own node because they need their own node. And so anything else that gets pinned by the rest of the network is like just icing on the cake. And so that's a really interesting incentive model. And I hope to see more of that, of like if a similar business that say has a video game with tokens, in Japan, they might just spin up their own node because they need same thing. They just need a pinning node close to their servers, and they get the redundancies in the US for free.
Well, I look at it like this. Even if I'm a business running a website, most of them are going through Squarespace or something like that. Even AWS, it's costing me $8, $10 a month now for hosting fees, and like CDN. Like by the time you add up storage, CDN, and the Route 53 costs on AWS, you're easily looking at like $15 a month. So now I could think about, man, if I bought a Raspberry Pi 3, which you can do for $50, and I ran an IPFS cluster node on it, and I could just pin my website for free, but know that there's enough clusters that the people are going to be able to get it. They're not going to have to wait for it. There you go. That's somebody that would do it. All I have to do is put this in the back of my business and make sure it's plugged in the whole time. Awesome.
Yeah. So I like that incentive model a lot more than the bounty incentive model, because if we pay out bounties, like I want to do both, but the problem with paying out bounties is like we have to keep people honest. We have to, have some system that's making sure that they're doing what they say they're doing, and then we got to worry about if that system is robust and actually reporting accurately. And it's just like you don't have to worry about any of that with this other incentive model where people are just doing it because they need it. It's a very simple, clear,
Well, and that's
system.
that's where I'm asking about tiers too, because I've thought a lot about this. Like, all right,
Mhm.
so we have 10 nodes. Great. What happens when we have 100? You know,
Right.
the do those 100 nodes probably don't all need to store that website, you know, but
Mhm.
maybe we have 20 nodes in St. Louis and they're throwing a big festival and they want some Web3 event or XR experience to go off. So they hire all 23 nodes in St. Louis to all be seeding the content at once, because that could make sense for them.
Mhm.
So in that use case, yeah, I want to have all 23 nodes. Normally, if I'm just a bakery, I might want to have 3 in St. Louis. If like
Mhm.
all I serve is St. Louis, and I also may not want to have it pinned in Japan because Stoyan's never going to come to my St. Louis bakery, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
So all this stuff makes sense, but it seems like with IPFS, they're like, we're just going to have it everywhere and everybody's going to sync to the same nodes in San Francisco. And then you're going to hope that, like, even though Chris is living on an island and he's running IPFS and his neighbor's running IPFS, guess what? They're connected through 3 different hoops because they both sync to the San Francisco nodes and got the peer list from them instead of being able to sync to each other who are right there. You know, that
Mhm.
was a big thing that Adam and I ran into, where it was like, every node we started up wasn't syncing to each other, and we had to go IPFS the peer.
Yeah, you have to hack that bootstrap list and.
You have to either hack the bootstrap list or add it manually,
Mhm.
right? And so we're like, this is kind of weird. Like, we're starting up 15 nodes. Every one of them we
Mhm.
have to manually sync with each other through the 4001 gateway, right?
Yeah, yeah. And once you start, that's what you realize once you start digging start looking under the hood with IPFS is like they built this software for them. They're not building this for us to use on these weird science experiments. Like there's a lot of it comes out in the code and how it's set up is like this is designed to run Filecoin. Like
Yeah.
that's the purpose of the IPFS software. And so if we want to use it for something else, it's on us to sort of make that happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big issue. They're kind of small. I mean, they're not super small fixes, but they're not like code breaking, groundbreaking fixes that can't possibly be implemented.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It's just a steep learning curve.
yeah, well, since they have Go and technically they say JS IPFS is a split. Like they're like, yeah, JS IPFS split off from us. I've heard them talking about that in their meetings because I like listened to their monthly meetings about what they talk about, and I was like, oh, so you don't even consider them to be part of your team? So, all right,
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. There's a weird relationship there. Yeah, I. It's unfortunate because to do things like browser file sharing or browser chat, JS IPFS is the only way to do it. But yeah, anytime, and I talked to McKeel Rogers and other people over there at Protocol Labs, and every single one's like, don't use JS IPFS.
I'm not understanding why.
Well,
I'd
I
like to
did. Yeah,
think.
that's the thing. They don't clarify. They like I've had multiple people tell me not to use it, but I haven't had anybody tell me why I shouldn't use it. I mean, for one reason
Yeah.
is there's a memory leak, but you can overcome that.
Yeah.
But it is just a redheaded stepchild version of IPFS. It's like there's all these great features, but they're not supported in JS IPFS, and like here's a great example of the sort of undocumented discrepancy is pub sub channels. Super important, especially for the way we're using it in a browser. You can only have 6 pub sub channels, and that has nothing to do with JSF IPFS. It has everything to do with the web browser. That's all a web browser lets a single threaded application do. It just cannot subscribe to more than 10 because it's making a WebSocket connection. So it's only allowed to make 6 WebSocket connections,
Mhm.
and there's no way around that. And so That's a big issue for us because all of our IPFS nodes use PubSub to talk to one another. And so that means that a JS IPFS node in the browser can only talk to 6 other nodes at a time.
Yeah. Well, that's also why I'm excited to have you look into Gun.js, because what I've seen of them could be the workaround for that, where Gun.js is the distribution of something like that, and then IPFS acts like the storage, the place where things are stored. So, because like I said, when Gun.js spins down, like when you close your browser out, because the graph data is stored in your browser local storage, it goes away, it goes back to another node, and so that usually is like an S3 bucket, how they have it set up, but it could be an IPFS, cluster.
Mhm.
So I think there's a way to have JS IPFS spin up a node, pull from the cluster the information, and then use that to connect with Gun.js to everybody that's already perpetual up in Gun.js, if that network is big enough. But that's a cold start problem.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you got to get that hard side that's going to be using it. Why are they going to be using it? And
Right.
how do you like I said, I've been pouring through that book you mentioned.
I need to get back with. I read like the first 2 or 3 chapters, and those were like gold. And then I didn't get any further because I'm like, I'm not ready for this. Like I'm not like, I don't have a network that's at the point where I need to go past chapter 3.
Well, it was something that I realized, like, as I'm talking to people, that the value of these companies is in their network. It is not in proprietary knowledge. It's not in code.
It's not the IP.
This is completely different than like all these business people think. And I'm sitting here going, it's not about IP. It's not about any of that. It's about the network. Airbnb, there's a great example in there where Airbnb had a competitor come up in Europe with a lot more funding and a lot more employees, and they were able to beat them because of the quality of their network. That was how they won. They didn't win because they had better, different patents or anything like that. So it's really weird to see this mindset of tech where they're like, oh, you can't move fast enough for patents and copyright and anything like that. And the old mindset that's like, you got to have a patent, you got to have a copyright,
got to have a moat.
Got to build a moat.
This is what venture capitalists buy. Yep. Yeah. No, I know. My business partner is an intellectual property patent agent, and we agree to disagree. And I'm glad that I can leverage his knowledge and wisdom of that space, and I'm glad that I don't have to have that knowledge or take it too seriously. Because that's not how my world works.
No, it's all about those network effects, and like we're saying right here with the cluster, right? I'm giving you an example of who could be our hard side. Well, people that just need a website, and they don't want to. They'd rather just stick this thing in their business and have it run, and not have to worry about it. Like, there's plenty of people that don't even change their website that much, but they're still paying $30 a month for their website. Like, they haven't changed it in 2 years. They might as well stick that on, stick it in the back, and be a node. Right?
Yeah. Well, that's a reminder. One of the things I wanted to, now that we're kind of in the roundtable discussion part, one of the things I want to bring up, there is a Bitcoin Cash conference November 12th and 13th in St. Kitts in the Bahamas. I'm going to go there. I've already booked my flight and my hotel. And I'll be speaking there. There was an eCash conference in Czech that is just wrapped up. And so I'm hoping they'll post some videos there. Speaking of which, they announced that the Avalanche post-consensus protocol is going to go live on the eCash mainnet on September 14th. So I'm pretty excited about that. As far as I understand, like you have to stake your eCash to participate in the Avalanche consensus. But as far as I'm aware, there is not going to be any incentive for that. Like, there's no rewards. There's no staking rewards like AVAX gives you rewards if you're a staker. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that, because I don't know why someone would bother to lock up 100 million eCash if they don't, which is like 100 BCH in the original. Why would you lock up 100 BCH if there's no incentive to do that? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I've heard a lot of conjecture and theory, but I want to see the rubber meet the road.
Yeah. If you want to, if you know anybody at that conference, you want to reach out and see if they want to live stream it in 360 or to the metaverse, have them hit me up, because
Okay.
you know that I could come down there then, and we could set up several 360 cameras and we could live stream out in 360 the entire conference.
Well, I was just I was just on a call with Roger Revere and Sunny Gahani, who's organizing it, and I'll throw that out there. That might just tickle their fancy.
Yeah, I mean, we got a new like website called shapesphere.io, but you know, it looks a lot better than my old one did, but I'll drop that.
Yeah, I definitely want to check that out. Well, what reminded me of this is you were talking about the hard side, and one of the things that Sunny's been talking to me about is he just wants to be able to sell widgets for Bitcoin Cash on a web page. Like that's it. And so I know that there is a WordPress plugin for buying and selling stuff with SLP tokens of Bitcoin Cash. So I'm going to try and learn how to do that.
I think it was a WooCommerce one.
Yeah, it's like a WooCommerce plugin. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it got deprecated. I'm pretty sure though.
Oh, I believe prompt.cash, and I believe it's still working.
Cash. Okay. I think they still maintain this.
Oh, good.
I'm in fairly regular communication with Ecliptor, who's the developer behind that, who maintains it. So, I'm going to try and it's been a long time since I've dipped my toes in the WordPress waters, but I'm just going to try and figure out how to set up a WordPress, add WooCommerce, then add this plugin, and see if I can just sell, blue, yellow, and red widgets for, a penny of Bitcoin Cash.
Having worked with it in the last few months, it's probably extremely dumbed down to compared to what you think, because I find myself going, why is it so hard to do this one thing that I want to do? Why can't I just want to move this up. If it was CSS, I could tell it, change the padding and just type it, but no, I've got to find out where I can input this thing.
Well, so here's the thing. If you guys or anybody watching this knows a good WordPress developer who can do customizations, have them reach out to me, because I am not going to do that. I will learn how to set up a canned site and follow, and steps 1, 2, 3, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do any customization or development. And I would love to give these people a contact for someone who is willing to do that work.
Jerry says it's on the parameters. We're doing WordPress for our block hack website. Yeah, Jerry, it definitely is. But the thing is, they switched over some things, and some of the themes work on the new parameters and some work on the old. And I happen to be working on this in June, right when they did the update. And so my site switched from being the old parameters in ways it worked to being the new parameters, in the middle of me working on it. And that's where I had a little frustration, because they pushed out an update and they're like, it's all new, WordPress 6 or whatever.
Yay.
Yeah.
I know. That's just I thought I was done with all of that. I haven't touched WordPress in 5 years, but
Elementor is good, and that was invented because they didn't have a very good Gutenberg press. Now they have the Gutenberg press, but they changed the global page settings, Jerry, to where they used to be they'd pop up on the left-hand side, and then you could choose stuff. Now it's kind of in another tab, and it's weird. Depends. I find myself switching through versions so I can just adjust the global page settings in the previous version, then switching back.
I get frustrated and I go right to the PHP and then I break everything.
Yeah.
But that's me. That's why I'm not a good WordPress admin. Well, what else is going on, guys, in the crypto world, or with you guys personally with your projects?
Well, I'm just Learning 3JS and Babylon JS. Been looking into Gun JS. Like I said, they have some pretty good examples on the website where you can just play around. Their communication protocol was great. I literally had my phone in one hand and my computer the other, and as I typed in my computer, it was appearing on my phone. That's like how quick it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was with Gun.js?
Gun.js, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I need to check into that.
Yeah,
That,
it's a different type of database, and it is not like it's a CRDT, very similar to how
okay.
the cluster works now.
Yeah,
as
that's how
opposed
the
to-
pay to write database works.
Yeah, as opposed to a raft. So it's like eventual consensus, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
But I figure it's good enough that if you are building, like, if you have a 3D world that you're sharing with your friend, and you guys are connected, it's good enough that that world will be all right. Yeah, maybe if somebody comes in, some things will have to catch up and might be a little wonky, but
Yeah.
it's good enough for interacting with one another.
Well, this thing is like, this is a good example of how things don't mean what you think they mean. Where like, so CRDTs are like, there's this whole mathematical culture around CRDTs, and so people summarize it as saying eventual consensus. But what that really means is it works great unless your network sucks, and so it becomes a networking problem. It's not a like if your network is awesome, then your experiences will be awesome, and if your network sucks, then your experience will catch up once your network catches up. And so that that whole the trade-off with a CRDT is that like they push the thing onto the network. And so that's I never have ever heard anybody explain it that way, but like that's the reality.
Jerry says he's going about raising money for OPTN, our fork of the Badger wallet.
Nice.
Hell yeah, Jerry. Hell yeah.
Well, Jerry, you should get in touch with Sam Rock, who's a member of the PSF. He built he ported my web wallet over to a very simple browser extension. And
no way.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's demoed it here in these meetings a
is
little bit.
Chrome? Yeah, he did. Is it? I can't remember. Is it Chrome extension?
I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was. But yeah, that's really interesting because I mean, for that single sign-on experience, that's what you need. You need a browser extension, and you really can't get it without it. And or a central server. You know, that's how Facebook and Google does it.
Well, we were talking about just having a browser extension for a key pair. Like, Jerry, that may even be a place to start before you even have wallet functionality. Because if you just have a browser extension that is your key pair, then when you go to the site will look at your key pair, and if they're wallet enabled, you'll have all your stuff there.
Yeah. Man, I wish Zoom had a feature where we could display the chat.
Mobile.
Oh, what's that?
Mobile. It's Badger Mobile, not the browser.
Oh, Badger Mobile. Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, interesting. Very cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, you know, Jerry, you and I should touch base on that because, or I'll send you a link to the Android app that I compiled for my web wallet. It's not using React Native like Badger Mobile does. It's using just React and then the capacitor framework to compile that into an Android app, and it can also compile it into iOS. And in fact, Dave Allen, who we haven't seen in a while, he's going to be sending me one of his old iPhones so that I can try and get an iPhone app developed as well.
Oh, damn! Nice.
Yeah.
Got to use some Xcode.
Yeah. I know. I haven't heard. I've talked to a few iPhone developers, and the experience sounds horrible. And so I'm not looking forward to it. But yeah. Stoyan, what have you been working on?
Oh, I am doing art. I'm creating AI art this week's. Like, I have already some pieces on Tezos and on Near blockchain.
I saw something about you messing around with bridges on Twitter, like bridging your tokens.
This was just to make some profit.
Oh,
they
nice.
they're giving some free tokens. So, but yeah, I'm messing around with Aurora, which is like Ethereum compatible blockchain on top of Near. So it's Near prices, but everything is like Ethereum virtual machine compatible. And the nice stuff is that you can bridge directly your ETH. So all of the taxes you pay again in ETH, but I mean on Near prices. So your transaction will cost you like 0.00000, no many zeros. And but there's no like fuzz around converting your ETH to something else, which can change in time. Like it's ETH there, so you can move it back. You will not lose any value in your ETH because you converted it to Matic or something.
So is it like a wrapped ETH?
Something like this, yeah. But wrapped ETH is ERC20 token. You still need to pay ETH for your fees, or not ETH, but for example, native like currency for this, not currency, but coin for this blockchain. Like if you're on Polygon, it's wrapped ETH, but you still pay Matic for your transactions. But on these guys, your native coin will be ETH. So when you bridge it one time, you will pay your transaction in ETH everything. So you can start with empty wallet. In fact, you can just transfer everything there. You don't need some like initial funds to get your funds from the bridge or something. So it's very convenient to start on Aurora, and it's fast. It have all of the stuff that they promised, like sharding or whatever you want. It's already there, and stable diffusion. I'm doing this too.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you guys. Like, what do you know about? I haven't even had a chance to look into this, but it looks like it's the text to picture AI thing, or
it's how I'm creating my recent pieces. It's
Jeez.
Okay, so short course, maybe 5 minutes on AI art.
I
can. So all of this AI art you created with some generator, like what is GAN? Like what is this?
Are you talking about the AI that's like super, like it can write a story or write a book? And
no, I mean it's something network. This GAN was like very common.
GAN. What do they call it?
GAN.
It's artificial neural network. Is the AN, whatever the G is.
Neural network. Yeah. So it started before you first train it with some images. Like you just give to him like 100 hours of animation, and it can create some images similar to the one that you feed it with. But there's no way to check if this image is close to the thing that you want. So somewhere in the middle, there's a group which is named OpenAI. They have like a GitHub repository. So they created something named CLAP, CLAP, which can check if the current pictures is close to some text. So you just give them some prompt. It's named prompt, like for example, flying Lamborghini, and it will just listen to, not listen, but viewing all of this art that the crazy generator is creating, and it will just show how close is it to this prompt. Like and this first generator is named like VQGAN. It's like a visual something generator, but it's 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 not creating very nice input for the clip. So there's another ways to create like pictures, like layer by layer. So you can become like you can make just part of your picture to become this art. If you see this NFT collections like what was like AI Moonbird. They just mutated just the face of this thing. And for this, you need a little like more advanced generators. So there was first something named disco diffusion, and now the current like big guy in the town is this stable diffusion, because it can diffuse like AI do just small part of your image. It will keep everything around.
Oh, okay.
And that's why you can give it some initial image like ape.
Yeah.
And you can just tell him, okay, just mutate the face of the ape.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah.
Who's the team on that one? The stable diffusion.
I think it's again this guy, OpenAI.
Oh, okay, it's OpenAI. I was wondering because I know there's an Intel team. I forget their name. They've been working on Stable View synthesis, and they also developed Nerf++, and which Nerfs are a huge like rage right now in the Tech Valley. But Stable View synthesis is like, in my mind, what I've seen them do is like a step above that, where it's recreating 3D scenes from photos using AI.
But until now, the problem was that in order to do this art, you need to make too much programming. Like I was using like a Google Colab, because they give you like GPU for you can rent GPU, and you run there some this what was Jupyter notebooks, like Python style code.
Yep.
But for the regular people, it was too much. But now they start to make like products from all of this, when the interface is more like for the human beings. Like if you want to play around for free, the nice product is named Night Studio.
Studio.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that was in that Twitter thread. Yeah.
Yeah. So they give you some credits for free every day, because one of these it costs you like 1 credit, but they give you 5 every day, so you can create 5 pieces every day for free. And it's like pretty. You can use all of this that I mentioned. You can use disco diffusion, stable diffusion, whatever you want. And
so, Stoyan, I got a question for you. I was kind of, I didn't even really know what I was looking at, but I knew it was AI generated. And so I was talking to an artist about it, and she was asking me, she's like, oh, well, could I take just my art, have the AI just study just my art, and then have it create a new piece of artwork based on my previous work, a body of art?
Yes.
Have you seen that? Like, is there
you can already do this with pretty much with disco diffusion and with stable diffusion. When you put your prompt, you can tell him what style you have.
Okay.
And it have, like, for example, it can be Van Gogh, or it can be a photo took with 35 millimeters, so it will look like a picture, or it can be pastel, whatever you want.
Wow.
But in order for her to have her own style, she needs first to create a model. I mean, she needs to teach this AI with her pictures, like sending a lot of her pictures until this guy understand that her name means this style. So the teaching, most of these projects, they give you the ready models. That's how they already trained everything with Van Gogh pictures. But if you want your own prompt, you need to teach this guy to recognize also many pictures with her style.
Yeah, well, I think that there are, because she's a and she's not the only artist I've talked to about this. It's sort of transitioning to the iPad. Is she does a lot with watercolors and like physical medium, but she's transitioning into working on an iPad. She's got a high-end iPad, and so I was like, man, wouldn't that be cool if like the AI could just come up with like a rough draft, and then with the iPad you can then do whatever you need to do with it, and that would really cut her time in making art, but would maintain the quality and the style.
Yeah, it's possible. I think this is that most of the people still don't understand that this AI will not replace the real artist. They're
Right.
just we was talking and somebody, okay, this AI will replace all of the artists. It's never happened, because even with the process that I mentioned, you need to look on this picture and tell him, okay, stop, it's now good, because it's becoming bizarre, more bizarre and bizarre, like when it starts doing stuff.
Yeah, we
And
start getting all the eyeballs.
yeah, it's like something. So, and for the case that she's designing kids, I think great, because it can save most of the dirty work. Like, for example, you need to have something, not empty canvas, but something to start with, and it can help with this, but it's never will be so good to replace the real artist, I think. So,
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
but this case is great, just to give you something to start with, so you can like make it good.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of been watching you on Twitter, like playing with this stuff, and it looks cool, and I don't really understand it, and like now I'm starting to get more excited about it.
Do you want to see my art?
Yeah. Give us a quick. We should wrap this up, but yeah, give us a quick view. I turned on screen sharing.
Okay, so I was just wanted to try Tezos, because everybody was mentioning that it's very cheap and nice to use. So I created some pieces there, and just because I'm zooming now, it will be a little slow to but yeah, it's here. So this is the space related. So if you're a sci-fi fan, you will maybe enjoy. And yeah, this is the one.
Wow.
It's good.
That's cool.
It's like 2000 pictures on 2000. And
so is object.com, is that what you use to generate these?
No, this is the marketplace.
Oh, okay, those are just the NFTs.
So yeah, this is the NFTs. I creating them on this Night Studio or in Collab, and I just uploading, because they have like nice interface. You can upload it to the IPFS and CDN in the same time. So yeah, very, very easy to use web interface.
Wow.
And we can sell you art. But the stuff that I'm using is this this Night Studio, Night Cafe .studio. Okay.
Good.
Cafe, because you can, if you go to in the start, it will ask you what kind of algorithm you want to use, like Stable Diffusion or something. So see, you can choose your style, cyberpunk or something. And when you see here, like Stable Diffusion, or you can have like this vegan that I told you. Nice. And when you choose this Stable Diffusion, you just give them some prompt. Let me show you, for example, some of the crazy, like a friend of mine told me that if she finds a spider in her kitchen, she will burn the house. So I decided, okay, I put the prompt like cute woman with long hair, like holding cat, staying in front of burning house, and it's creating this for me from this prompt. And you can see the next, this is your main prompt, what you want. And after this, you can put some like modifiers, like high resolution, or you mentioned like to be in some style like Van Gogh or something. So you put some modifiers, and yeah, this is the final result. And yeah, when you create something, you can see a Stable Diffusion. Like, let's see, tell me something. I will create something for you now.
Let's do a ferret on a boat wearing a hat.
A ferret on a board wearing? No.
Yeah.
Wearing a hat, lighting fireworks.
Wearing a hat. After this?
Lighting fireworks.
Lighting fireworks. Works. Like this one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and you can give it where are the add modifiers. So you can see there's a preset or artist. Let's do this like, I don't know, Van Gogh, or
let's do Thomas Kincaid.
Yeah.
Where is
Yes.
this guy? Okay, and it should be like 8K resolution, maybe
Sure.
concept art, and we can do this like what was acrylic, mosaic? No, photography maybe. What, I don't know, but yeah, let's just do this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and yeah, you can, let's create 4 images so we'll have more choices, and you can choose some like sampling, like training models, but and then we can tell him how close this to be to our words, and yeah, and just boom, and it's taking about a minute, so, or 30 seconds, so please be quiet.
Wow.
You can
And so I noticed it said 2 credits. So you said you get like so many credits a day.
I already got 40 for free because they introduced stable diffusion this week. Oh, see, this is, but there's no board. I maybe make some mistake
Well,
with
the bottom left's on the board.
yeah. I can evolve this, means I can change some prompts to make it even
I like the
better.
one. I like the one in the bottom left.
Which one? This one?
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
Okay, let's choose this one, and you can evolve it more. Like, I don't know what exactly you want to change.
Yeah, the face is a little messed up, but wow,
So,
that's super impressive.
I like
yeah.
that.
On a board with fireworks, wearing a hat. Yeah, checks all the boxes.
Yeah. So yes, this is the process of creating AI.
Wow,
But
Love it.
that is amazing.
yeah, so finally it's becoming like this one, the city. See, like this.
Nice.
But yeah, this is pretty much what I'm doing here. And I created. Sorry, let me one more time share. And I just had a little time to create this sweeper component.
Oh yeah.
So, like, I use this same technique to use script, and I put the sweeper library in the DOM model, and after this, now you can, but it looks like ugly, like maybe the same like in the wallet that you are creating. It's just one prompt and one button.
Yeah.
So, but I have also the QR code reader, so maybe it's a little more advanced than yours.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So because my target platform is Android, I'm trying not to do anything that is native to Android. So like using the camera, because I just don't want to deal with that right now.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just this
Nice.
line and this one, and you sweep, and it's everything. But I
Perfect.
tried it with these PSF wallets, these guys.
Oh yeah.
And it's working pretty well.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Nice. All right, well, guys, let's wrap it up. It's been an hour and 15 minutes. This has been a great meeting. Thank you, Stoyan, for showing us that art stuff.
That was
Like
sweet.
that's I'm gonna send all my artist friends like a link to this video with like the timestamp when we started talking about this, because that's gonna blow their mind seeing the ferret on a board with fireworks.
I will send you the URL to the free software so they all can try it for free. When you subscribe, they will give you free credits from the beginning, so you can start immediately doing stuff.
That's
and
awesome.
Every day they give you 5 more free, so it's pretty much free forever until someday.
Yeah, good. That definitely seems like a service worth charging for. So I'm glad we get to use it for free a little bit. Good. Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to sign off here. Thank you for making the time for this. And next, hopefully in the next meeting, I'll have that sweet Android app for buying tokens on the marketplace ready to show.
Sounds great.
Sounds good. Yes.